Back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, August 2nd. It is time for What Just Happened as we look back at the insanity of the week. And there was a lot of stuff this week. Joining us to break it all down, three returning champions. Tara Dublin's back. A writer, a political commentator. She now writes op-eds for HillReporter.com and the author of the book, The Sound of Setting, a non-political rock and roll love story. Settling. Why do I say settling? Settling. That's my typo from before.
Because you probably never fixed it from the first time.
That's right. So it's settling.
Fine. It's right there. It's right there for the visual reminder the entire time we're talking.
Nice to see you, Tara.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me back.
Sure. And also back, Wali Collins, stand-up comic, actor, producer, author, TV shows, creator of Wait What with Wali. Did I miss anything? Did I get anything wrong, Wali? You have to fact check.
I'm left-handed and I'm a Virgo.
There's more fact-checking in the first minute of the show than the entire National Black Journalists Association thing with Donald Trump. Baby. And we're going to get to that in a second. Yes. And Scott Blakeman, my buddy's back, comedian. We co-created Stand Up for Peace, which is working amazingly well. Host of podcasts and made over 40, 50 national TV appearances, one of the top political comics in the country. Hello, Scotty. Good to see you.
Dean, that's exactly right. See, this is completely no need for fact checking. That's perfect. And I just got back for the Borscht Belt Comedy Fest in Ellenville, New York last weekend. It was really a fun experience.
How was it?
I couldn't find my room, but other than that, those giant hotels, it's like West Wing, and you have people from 1985 still wandering the hall. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was great. Had a great time.
The Borscht Belt, they should have booked both of us. It could have been fun. Next year, and the Jews show. Hey, look at them. They're so funny, these two.
Yeah,
that would have been a great thing.
Hey.
Exactly. Why not? All right, let's talk about the election. A lot of this today is going to be about politics, sometimes a little pop culture, maybe near the end. So new polls show Vice President Harris has closed the gap what President Biden had in the swing states, or is actually leading it, depending. But it is still close, but now it is close. The polls were going the other way and really concerning. So what do you put the finger on the turnaround? Like, Tara, when you look at what's happened in the last 2 weeks, and it's almost 2 weeks to this Sunday that President Biden announced he would not run, and then he endorsed Vice President Harris, that we've seen this massive turnaround.
It's beautiful. The energy shift you can feel it everywhere you go. You can feel it just when you're online, even, because for the last almost 2 weeks, Kamala Harris has dominated the news cycle, not Donald Trump. And the mainstream media is figuring out how to cover her by following the example of Black women who are leading the charge to get her elected. And we're all just following in line. And you saw all of those Zoom calls that happened, all of the response to her. The energy is palpable. I mean, it's Black women and Gen Z are driving this. Yep. And the media can't ignore it, and MAGA can't compete with it. So all of it, she has out fundraised any political candidate in history in 1 month. It's glorious. It's beautiful to see the acceptance for her, because that was my biggest concern when Joe stepped aside. I was worried about, the embracing of a Black woman of South Indian descent as well, being embraced by, more mainstream American voters. But she has been just across all communities and generations. And we're seeing Obama 2008 level excitement, but on steroids. And it's amazing.
It is. And by the way, this morning it was reported the Harris campaign raised $310 million in July. Wow. She's only been with the campaign for 2 weeks. And Donald Trump raised $138 million in July. So she pooped all over it. Wally, you just recently turned Black. So what's your reaction as someone who just became Black? Right when the show began, he was actually white before that, but now he's turned Black. How is it? Welcome to the Black Club. I'm not Black, but welcome to the club of minorities that we're in here. So we'll get more deeper into the whole craziness of that. But are you surprised now, 2 weeks in, how Vice President Harris, as Tara said, has unified the entire Democratic Party? It's been unbelievable. Raised money off the charts, getting media coverage, and taking the fight right to Trump's face every day.
Well, I want to say, when I found out I was Black, I was clapping on the 2 and 4 instead of the 1 and 3. So I'm like, hey, I'm Black. So
now everything's working well.
Everything's working well.
Can we do any other things you can say? Now you can jump. Is there anything else that you can?
easy.
All right, okay, we can't keep doing it. I just saw on cable, white man can't jump. It's a funny movie to watch it now. Like, it's kind of weird now. It's like I'm not sure if I'm supposed to laugh at half this stuff, but continue.
Thank you. I think what's happening. I think she has a great touche for her slogan, her campaign slogan. We're not going back. Yeah. I think that's incredible, because it's when you think about that way, let's go Trump is saying, again, let's be this way again. And, you know, people are saying, you know, we've been there, done that. You know what? We don't want to go back to that. We want to see new things. We want something fresh. We want something exciting. You know, been there, done that. And I think that, I think that slogan, "We're not going back," is really, really a great way to say someone, you know, make America great again. Nah, man, we're not going back. Also, I think people are excited that of the idea of having a woman, a Black woman or Indian woman or a woman of color, I should say.
Multicultural.
Yeah,
she's multicultural. I'm half Arab, half Italian. I'm proud of both sides. I don't
right, multi-race.
You don't have to pick.
You know, you know, to be there, and you can see it. It's refreshing. It's just a different way of hitting this whole presidential election thing. It's always this stale white man who's saying the same. It's the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? In the same suit, and the same, you know, and even the rhythms and cadence of these guys is the same. You know. So it's like, oh man, but I think that's what's happening. And also you got the Beehive and you got the Swifties, you know, that's, you know, that's a big, so yeah.
It's exciting. Wally, I think you're so right, because we're not going back is in one way it's literal and another way it's figurative. You know, literal, going back to Trump. Figurative is the idea of like, we want to move forward as a nation. We don't want to go backwards to this old mindset of white supremacy, and that women are second-class citizens, which they've already done in 14 states where they've banned abortion at day one. But Scott, what about you? What's your take on the excitement in 2 weeks? I don't think any of us could have estimated or predicted 2 weeks ago this is where we would be.
Well, as the youthful but oldest member of this panel, I first want to say that President Biden deserved a second term, but he did the absolute right thing at the absolute right time. You know, Trump got no bump from the GOP convention, not that he deserved it. In fact, he sabotaged his own convention with the worst, clueless speech. Not that he ever gives a good speech, but no, as everyone's saying, it injected a lot of excitement because, you know, you have a sizable number of Republicans and independents who really hate Trump and will not vote for Trump. But if President Biden ran again, they may have just sat it out. And this is, as you know, there's so much excitement for Kamala Harris, and she has also learned from the mistakes from 2020. You know, and she, you know, when you're vice president, you can never really shine, and she did an excellent job. But that's why people worry. But once she stepped out there, she's hit the ground running. She's done an incredible job. The excitement is great. And as Wally said, people are tired of Donald Trump. He has his base. But I don't see how he builds on it at all. And speaking to the Black journalists the other day, I mean, he doesn't make any attempt to expand. So I think it's very exciting. I'm excited. You know, you didn't want people saying, yeah, we don't like Trump, but I don't know, Biden's old. I don't know, I'm going to sit it out. That's gone now. And now people are firmly behind Harris. And we're all very excited about it.
I also want to inject too. I don't know if you guys saw, they had a rally, a golf cart rally down in Florida. 500 golf carts. They took over this parking lot in Florida
in the villages.
In the villages, they're very pro-Trump. That was very pro-Trump.
And that was very pro-Trump. So that's, talk about a lean, and talking about, you know, making a difference. Oh yeah, making a difference. That's a great sign right there.
And Tara, what do you think? You know, I went through the show last week and even earlier this week. In Vice President Harris's speeches and even in their press releases, they are taking the fight to Trump in a way that Biden never would have wanted to. Like the headlines of press releases for the campaign are 78-year-old convicted felon appears on Fox News, stuff like that. Literally, those are the press release headlines. And they're not good. And press release after press release, they put Donald Trump incited a mob to attack our Capitol. And that's something Biden didn't want to lean into. And also on abortion, Vice President Harris is comfortable saying the word abortion and advocating for reproductive freedom. Joe Biden was actually personally anti-abortion, but politically for it. So now there's no more of this intellectual thing. It's much more visceral with her. And like what she said at the rally on Tuesday to 10,000 people, it was over 10,000 showed up, to Trump mocking him for ducking the debate, saying, "Say it to my face." And that line went exploded.
Well, she understands, I think, that in this moment that belongs to her, she has the opportunity to show people who have chosen, like you said, to not pay attention. People who weren't paying attention to Trump before because of, two old white guys. Yeah. They're closely paying attention to her now. So if she's speaking the truth to power about who Donald Trump is and has always been, and he keeps showing this All she has to do is use his own words against him, tell the truth about him. If they're going to be shining a light on her, she's going to be making sure she separates herself from who she is, from who he is. It's the prosecutor versus the felon. It truly is. She is not going to lie. She has so many facts on her side that she doesn't need to embellish. And women are mad. Black women have been waiting for this moment. So if you're talking about abortion, and she's calling them Trump abortion bans, she is directly tying him, because he is proud to have overturned Roe. And so, as the only woman in this conversation, I'd like to say thank you so much for making it absolutely clear that the government has no place telling anyone to do what to do with our bodies, but particularly women, because it's, no one does anything to the men's reproductive systems, and men cause 100% of pregnancies. So if she's able to shine a light on women's issues that are incredibly important, and why women vote the way they do, that's just one way. Joe Biden couldn't get away with a lot of these lines of, being able to shine a light on abortion and women's issues, because he's not a woman and he's not a person of color. And so she gets to speak to a lot of demographics all at once. She's married to a Jewish man. So she hits a lot of communities all at once when she stands up and speaks on camera. And that's broadcast to people all over the world who haven't seen her shine like this. And this is her moment, and she's going to use it to the best possible advantage for her campaign and for herself.
And in addition to that, Donald Trump's, first of all, he can't handle any questioning. He's so thin-skinned, but his kryptonite is really women and Black women in general, the way he was with the prosecutor in Atlanta, or he just can't handle that. So that adds a whole other dimension. And, their whole camp, Vance and Trump are so anti-women. They need that suburban women's vote. I don't see how they're going to peel that away. I mean, Vance with his childless cat lady crap and all that. And they're so out of touch with everything. And Trump's incredibly clueless, the whole idea of focusing on race. As Dean I think said earlier, America is more multiracial than ever. So who are you scoring points with except the racist base that he has? But you're not bringing in anybody new.
Well, Laura Loomer's
that's the minority.
All right, Laura, but Wally, I want to read the quote for people.
I just want to attach. Also, what I love about this whole situation is that finally we're seeing a true demographic of America.
Mm-hmm.
It's how long has it been a white man representing us? So when it was Obama, it was he was half Black, half white. America, is that melting pot, so to speak. So now once again you have this woman who's multi-race, and yes, she has a husband who is Jewish, which is America, and I think that makes me proud to say, this is a representation of America.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the National Association of Black Journalists, where Trump said, I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black? And the reality is, like you're saying, Wally, my family's multicultural, like her family. My dad's a Palestinian immigrant. My mom is Sicilian, born here, but her parents were born in Sicily. My mom's Catholic. My dad was Muslim. I was raised with both faiths growing up. That's what America is for so many people. It's not one or the other. And I went to, when President Obama did his first mosque visit, and I was invited, it was like in 2015. He said in America, you don't have to choose between being, say, Muslim or American. You can be both. And that's the same idea here. You don't have to choose. You can be Black, be proud of being Indian, and be proud of being American. I am proud of being Italian. I'm proud of being of Arab heritage, Palestinian heritage. But I'm also eternally proud of being American because this nation let my parents, my dad, and my grandparents come here. That Trump doesn't get that. Trump is this white bullshit supremacist mindset where this white supremacist is telling people what your colors are, what your race are. Like we're in South Africa apartheid, and you have your Indian 10%, you have certain rights, and if you're Black, this percentage. To me, it was a vile display. And Laura Loomer, who's despicable, people don't know her. She made herself known as an anti-Muslim bigot, and now she's just part of Donald Trump's close cabinet. In fact, he's really close to her. She's awful. Is cheering this. So, I mean, Wally, in the Black community, you and anyone else you've heard talk to in the Black community, what is their take on the idea of Trump demonizing her and saying she's not really Black and not legitimately Black? The same guy who said Obama wasn't born here and that was his racist birther campaign.
Well, first of all, I am a child of a mixed marriage. My mother's Pisces, my dad's Capricorn.
Oh, okay. That's a tough one. Wow, there's a lot of weirdness.
Yeah,
Capricorn.
yeah.
I don't know what what's the
And
Capricorn.
this is the result right here, and I'm proud
Yeah.
to say that I'm from that.
But you overcame it, Wally, and
I did. Yes, it was so much adversity. Kids teasing me in school, trying to get a job once they found out my background. It's tough. It's tough. But anyway, I digress. I really, it's a whole new world, and we're seeing it, and we're watching it unfold right before our eyes. Trump is using that old ammunition. He's using bayonets, as they say. He's using, he's using rocks and stones, and Kamala and crew, they're coming with, laser guns, and it's just. Trump is analog and Kamala Harris is digital. I love it how it's evolving to say, you know what, we're not going back to those old ways of doing things. And also, what worked for Biden, those speaking points or whatever. Kamala comes in, they're like, oh no, wait a minute. Well, we gotta regroup. We don't know what to say because we don't want to offend. We don't want to, say the right thing or the wrong thing, and then we don't want to say the right thing to the wrong group, and so, yeah. And so when he was talking to a black journalist, oh my God, his respect level for black folks, you could see it right there, how he just talks to him, first of all, your question is very rude. How you say that?
Nasty woman. How dare
nasty,
you?
Yeah. And it's like, just answer the question. Just, speak to us, like on the same level. But you can just, it's disdain, it's contempt in his voice. He goes, I'm here because I have to be here and talk to these idiots, and then I'm out, But when they ask him something that's really puts him in a corner, he's gonna attack back and say, shouldn't be back in the fields.
That's that's part of it. This idea of how uppity, you're an uppity black person. How dare you ask me a question like this? That's so disrespectful. And by the way, as a fact check, and just so people know that, Vice President Harris attended Howard University, historically black college.
Yep.
She was in one of the most famous black sororities there are. I just had a sorority sister on yesterday talking about the black sorority. She was in law school, was the vice president of the Black Law Student Association. Since she ran for office in the early 2000s, her bio always talked about being black, but also being proud of her Indian heritage. Like the idea we have to pick and choose, and that the person who's going to be the arbiter of it is Donald Trump and tell us which race we are is unbelievable. So Tara, just what was your reaction when Donald Trump did that bullshit and his racist bullshit, to be honest?
Well, first of all, I would love to know why his campaign put him in that seat to begin with, when everybody knows he is terrified of black women. Just ask Tish James, just ask Fonnie Willis, just ask Tanya Chutkin, just ask Kamala Harris. So
April Ryan.
Ruby and Shay Moss, why don't you ask them how scared he is of black women? So, and I've always said that women will end him, E. Jean Carroll, and I've always said that even, especially black women will end him because he was born into racism. He was raised in racism. He was given money to be professionally racist. He and his father were slumlords all during the 70s, and they wouldn't rent to black families in Manhattan. Yep. None of this was a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention to him. But that and he delayed starting his appearance because he didn't want them fact checking him in real time, which they did. And, Rachel Scott did a great job holding him accountable when he wouldn't answer. They were like, all right, we're done. So, the fact that he was that disrespectful, on brand, nothing new, who he's been all along, and he's just digging the hole deeper for himself. So you have being disrespectful to all women. You have JD Vance being disrespectful to all women and furniture. So, everybody knows he fucked a couch, whether he did or he didn't. He absolutely did, as far as the American people are concerned. If Stephen Colbert, my mom knows that JD Vance fucked the couch. So
he's a couch
if we're
jumper.
at that level, if he's, ritual serial couch abuser with a full disdain for the Jewish people, because we just found out that JD Vance has a huge investment in Rumble, which is the Nazis' favorite video platform. Wow. So so as I'm Wish a woman, own cats, but I do have kids, but I'm also a Swiftie, but I also love Beyonce, and I'm a walking MAGA bingo card. So I'm ready for all of this old, tired 2016. We're getting the Hillary bullshit, but with bonus added racism. Yay. Right. We're ready amazing. For it. It's old and it's tired, and now we know how to fight it.
So the easiest job in the world is to be a Republican speechwriter, because as comedians, they just do old material. You know, there's nothing new. But the thing is, Trump has never been serious. And you said, why did he speak in front of the black journalists? I think his staff thought maybe in some wishful thinking fantasy world he would, because there are black men and Hispanic men who apparently could be persuaded to vote for Trump, according to some polls. So I understand the political calculation, but he just can't follow through. And you know, we've talked about this before. I mean, the fact, and I feel bad for Joe again. I mean, anyone being pushed out that way, even though it was the right thing to do. But Trump is certifiably unstable, and the things he says are crazy. And whether it's of age or just he's always been that way. And one of the things, takeaways for me from the black journalist meeting was the great questioning and the ferocious, relentless, and just calm. No, sir, you know, if they're innocent, they were convicted, sir. You know, and I want to see other journalists do that on a regular basis, and it was respectful, but it was just right on. And that's
being journalists. Right. Yeah. That's the thing. The funniest thing to me was JD Vance's response to Vice President Harris and what Trump said. And to remind people, JD Vance in the past called Donald Trump reprehensible, a fraud, potentially America's Hitler, and then flip-flopped to get his support. JD Vance said Harris is, quote, a phony who caters to whatever audience she's in front of. I'm like, you, of all people, go hump a couch. You just go over there, sit in your room with your armchair, your lazy boy, whatever you're going to do your thing. He's like a dog. I mean, you got to have a newspaper around him if he's near the couch. Like, no, stop humping the couch. I mean, Tara, what about this bullshit here where JD Vance is saying she's a phony when this guy is walking, he's a wind vane. Whatever helps his career, he spins around, he doesn't even care.
Is a confession from them. So he's just mirroring what Donald Trump does. By the way, JD Vance also is the least popular vice presidential candidate in history. And he's actually gotten more unpopular since last week. Last week, he was tracking at -6. And this week it's -15. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because he can't stop lying. I mean, he opportunistic. The fact that he called Trump America's Hitler was actually a compliment. Now that you find out he hates Jews along with women and everybody else, and the two of them should just go be in like a Susie and the Banshees or an Adam and the Ants cover band, because they love wearing makeup and eyeliner. And there's a rumor going around that Hillbilly Effigy had LGBT gay conversion as a kid. That would track. Also, because for everything a bully hates about for him.
Well, he in the book, I didn't read the book, but he talked about wondering when he was younger if he was gay or not, and that's so he does talk about that.
Tracks too. So there's a lot of closeted, repressed bullshittery going on here. So remember, when they're when they're accusing the enemy of something, it just means that they're telling the truth about themselves, and just keep letting them dig their own holes. They're not going to debate. They're not going to show up. Do you really? It doesn't matter. No. Kamala Harris could nominate, my AirPods case as her VP, and it would still do better than JD Vance in a debate. So we keep finding out old things about him. Like, he lied and said he didn't know anything about Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. He gave a speech at the Heritage Foundation just last year. Video exists, JD, you dumb fuck. So the nicknames for him and everything else that's sticking to him, they should just drop out now. They should just forfeit now. They got
Vance
nothing.
Also, as he said, I mean, he's completely phony, but also painting himself as a populist. It almost sounded like Bernie Sanders at his convention speech, and their policies. And I hope they do focus on issues, because obviously this is all clear to us, but there are some people who don't follow things every day, and they're not aware of Project 2025, or they're not following everything. We need to prove to them that their lives, first of all, under Donald Trump, were much worse. And just the Lincoln Project does a good job of showing that in their commercials, and how much better off they were with Biden, how much that would continue with Harris. And it is important, because people do that still, when it gets down to it, prices at supermarkets and restaurants are things that people get back to. So we can win on that too. And it can't just be they're weird and crazy, which they are. It has to also be we've got better ideas too.
I love the fact Trump's response to them calling him weird. Like, I'm not weird, they're weird. I'm like, oh, we're in third grade again. This is ridiculous. He literally goes, I'm not weird. They're weird. How they're the weird ones. And so did Marco Rubio. It's all right. So let's take a break and come back though. And I want to get your prediction or choice for vice president, because this is going to air. And by Saturday or Sunday, we're probably going to know. They're going to leak it because the Vice President Harris is going to introduce her running mate Tuesday in Philly, but it's probably going to be announced Monday, and it might even get leaked on Sunday, so it gets on the Sunday shows, and then Monday they get more press, and Tuesday. So let's take a break. We'll come back with more of what just happened right after this. And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're continuing with Tara Dublin, Wali Collins, and Scott Blakeman. What just happened as we look back at the week. So look, the vice presidential sweepstakes, and it's kind of building up now. There's a short list. I think everyone knows those names. That I'm just curious, is there someone you like that either you like them or you think strategically they make the most sense? I will share at the outset, we haven't done a thing, call in and say, who do you want? But organically people have called up, and it wasn't even me. Mark Kelly, just from Arizona, like people just left and right calling. I don't mean on the right. I mean, just people over and over. And a lot of it is at his background, the astronaut stuff. He served in the U.S. Navy, decorated fighter jet pilot, and then astronaut, and his wife is Gabby Giffords, the congresswoman who was shot. And that also he's from Arizona, but people have said good things about everybody. It really is the small group that it's narrowed down to all 20, 50 times better than JD Vance, a million times better than Donald Trump. They'd all be great. They all bring something. But so Scott, what about you? Is there one that you like, or would you rather say strategically, you think someone would be better, or one or two people would be better? You don't have to pick the person. It's up to you.
Yeah. To me, we're talking about the excitement that Harris is generating. I want to keep that excitement going. And to me, as much as I respect Kelly, I think that Pete Buttigieg, and I know some say, oh, come on, we need to be bold. I think one of the problems with the Clinton campaign was they got too complacent. Tim Kaine is a very decent guy, but didn't really add anything. And you can't play it safe. First of all, it's so close. You got to be aggressive. And I think Pete Buttigieg, look, people who would not vote for Hart because Buttigieg is gay, they wouldn't vote Democratic anyway.
Right, it's a good point.
He's very articulate. He's youthful. He's young. Again, all of them would be fine. The governors, Shapiro, all those I'm not as excited about. No one knows who they are, really. Kelly, I would say between Kelly and Buttigieg. And
why do you think Buttigieg, just from a strategic political point of view, he just adds energy, you're saying?
I just think that he's so probably he's known. I think he'll continue to excite people, younger people. And I just think would be great. I think it's nice. And I think that it would just be a good image.
Interesting.
I think,
Scott, I forgot how good he was until Fox News like a week ago. And I'm like, great. Wow. I was like, what? I'm like, I honestly forgot. I'm like, he's great. Like that.
He's one of the few Democrats who go on Fox and really do well and very combative. And I think
if you were just putting a ticket together and forgetting like who can help you carry a state or whatever, Pete Buttigieg would be probably the top. I mean, honestly, and just the way he carries himself and stuff like that. I think I've had Josh Shapiro on the show a bunch of times, not in the last few months, but I've had him on as a candidate, and great speaker, really nice guy. I like him a lot. But the thing is, by putting someone on the ticket, it doesn't mean they're going to deliver their state. That's also part of it. Doesn't mean if you put Mark Kelly on, you deliver Arizona, nor Shapiro as Pennsylvania. So it's almost like who's the best.
Kentucky
and Bashir, you're not going to get Kentucky at all. Yeah. But it's about who adds something else to the winning this and Buttigieg really has, and I'm not advocating for him, I'm just strategically saying I can see that adding a lot of energy and animating another subset of our Democratic base. Tara, what about you? Who do you like in your heart, and strategically, is it a different person?
In my heart, I immediately want Pete. I want Pete Buttigieg. I love him. I do. I love him. I love how he and his husband have really made, again, it's mainstream America. They're parents of 3-year-olds. And so they've made themselves very, open. They live their lives openly. They say to parents, we're just like you, we can't find shoes in the morning. Our kids are picky eaters. He's very relatable in that way, but it's also what we've been saying, like he goes on Fox News and he smokes them. And Fox News viewers see him and they're like, well, he's a palatable one. So there's that. And I just, in my heart of hearts, I love him. But if we're talking about the strategery, Kamala Harris is already, she's a Black woman of South Indian heritage married to a Jewish man. For most of America, that's a lot right there. Right. Which eliminates, and as I'm speaking as a Jewish American woman, so, Josh Shapiro, that kind of eliminates him because that's a lot of Jewish for a lot of people. And there's a lot that people can throw at her. For me, it's also a lot about the optics because people love Tim Walz and people love Mark Kelly. And they both bring a lot to the table as well. But they also look like just a replacement for Joe Biden, like optically. It looks like another older white man. I don't want anybody to have the perception that anybody but Kamala Harris is the president of the United States. Like when GWB was in office and everyone's like, oh, Dick Cheney is really running the country. I don't want that for her. She has earned her moment and she has earned this place and she has earned the title. And so I don't want anyone devaluing her and thinking, it's really.
What if she picks nobody? She goes, I'm doing both. My black side's president, my Indian side is vice president.
Woman. She could do Trump. It all and also feed everybody because she's a Black woman and she's a stepmother and she knows what it's like. But ultimately, like on paper, my Gen Z 25-year-old son says it's Andy Bashir because, first of all, he can't run again. His time as governor has expired. He has a lot of experience truly living in Appalachia, unlike, fake hillbilly FG JD Vance. He's been great for women's rights and LGBTQ, especially protecting trans kids. And he's a young and spry 46. 40s,
yeah.
So Pete Buttigieg has a great role. I think if he's not the choice, he has a great future in her cabinet. A lot of people are saying he'd be an amazing Secretary of State. Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I think if we're really on paper, it's Buttigieg or it's Bashir for me.
Interesting. Well, everyone showed their work. I really am impressed by this, as opposed to just going, it's Bashir next. Remember like the old McLaughlin show? So like, Wally, what about you?
Jack DeMonico.
Is there anyone that you like? Do you think it helps one of the people that we've talked about here helps her win this election? Or is it just her versus Trump and that's all that really matters?
It really is a PR thing, this whole presidential whatever, how you look to the public, it's almost like being a rock star. Like, that was one of the great things about Obama. He handled the rock star part of it, and Trump loves being the rock star. But also, how are you at task? Can you handle the job? Can you talk to heads of states? Can you talk to these different presidents and chiefs and of other countries and other nations and cultures? Yeah, Buttigieg, we're all agree. Buttigieg. I mean,
really?
Watching him, how zen he is when he goes on Fox News, how when he talks to Congress when he's there, he has facts. You can tell. Whatever they say gets under his skin, but he kind of goes zen. He's zen's like, you know what? Let me just stick to the facts. Now, when I say the whole PR thing, and also just to show it, Gavin Newsom would be a very interesting kind of VP because he has that presidential kind of like smooth, cool, good-looking guy kind of thing. It's like, hey, lady, Newsom's it. You know what I mean? So, I think he would show up to these, rallies.
But do you think like she'd be out? She'd come into the office and one day and he's sitting behind the Oval Office. She goes, get out of there. I'm president. Stop playing, Gavin.
Plus, they're both from California, so that can't happen. I love Studley Newsom, but he's going to have to wait till 28 at least.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom. I'm just saying PR-wise. Like,
I know you're like being interested. That's a super ticket.
Yeah.
Harrison Newsom.
But no, in all seriousness, I really think Buttigieg, and also too, Buttigieg represents America, and represents
mid-America, because he was the mayor of South Bend, right, in Indiana. Right, so you're not going to win Indiana, but Obama did once, but that was a fluke. That first, it's interesting you guys all say Buttigieg because my friend Pam Keith was on last night, a lawyer who she had run for Congress in the past, and said if it was just even like forget who it's going to help in a certain state or not, Buttigieg was the person because he adds so much excitement. But I think she's got so much excitement. To me, like there are a lot of really good people. They're all good. If she picked Buttigieg, I'd be ecstatic. I saw him speak a few times in person in New Hampshire in 2020 campaign because we were up there for a few days and we saw a big event where he spoke at. But I bet you
That's a
it's
great
Kelly.
date.
I bet it's Kelly in that, the astronaut stuff, Arizona, Gabby Giffords,
Well, the
a lot
border
going
also.
on. Yeah, it's a thing. But then again, we'll find out. Andy Bashir is great. Arabs think he's Arab. He's not, because Bashir is an Arab boy. He's not Arab. I looked it up. Years ago, I thought, because there were a lot of Arab Americans in West Virginia, like the Ray Hall family, the whole Ray Hall racing team, and Ray Hall was a congressman, all Lebanese. They were Lebanese Christians. They came here generations ago. So I thought maybe Bashir was. It's not. But that'll be good, though. Arabs in Michigan were like, okay, you see it, Bashir, he's one of us. We vote for him, no? Okay, yes. That's how it's going to go. So that's not a bad. And they'll ask me, I'm like, oh, of course. He's from Lebanon. His grandmother comes from Beirut, And we're like, oh, so it'd be kind of exciting. We will know. We'll know by this weekend, because it'll suck up all the news for the whole weekend. They'll leak it, and then they'll announce it Sunday or Monday, and we'll figure it out. So, all right, let's get one thing here I want to talk about, and this is kind of a serious thing. Not that this other stuff wasn't serious, but it's more my frustration with corporate media. But I understand the big headline out of the Black Journal Association was Donald Trump saying Kamala Harris turned black. That's a legitimate story, and it should be covered. But there's also a policy thing that Donald Trump had said. He was asked by ABC's Rachel Scott. She went through the officers who were beaten up, and they spine injuries, lost an eye, and all that stuff. And she said, were those people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons? And Trump said, oh, absolutely, I would. If they're innocent, I would pardon them. And Scott said they've been convicted. And he said it's a very tough system. But the point is, up until then, Trump has couched his pardons as people, he said things like, oh, they were just parading around, or the police said, go in, go in, go in. He was never specifically asked before, would you pardon those who actually beat up police officers? And Rachel Scott got him to say yes. And I think it's a bigger news story. It's a much more dangerous place that he's going into. But that was my take on, maybe it's not that big. Maybe you assume that he always meant the cop killers as well. But Scott, what about you? I mean, do you think it was news or not? Or did you always expect that anyway?
No, I think it's very newsworthy. In fact, I hope it turns into a lot of campaign ads really use that, because that's something that really, in terms of strategy too, you're reaching out to so many people. I mean, the Republicans used to be, quote unquote, the party of law and order. And here you're condoning people who attacked and killed police officers. So how does, I think that it should have been covered more, but certainly the Democrats need to really focus on that and use clips of that. And it shows that he's not a friend of law and order, because he, created January 7th. He encouraged that and still stands by it even more today than then, and openly condones people who attack and kill police officers.
Did you say January 7th, though? I think
January 6th. Did I say it?
Because I said, what happened on January 7th?
That's
the day after was even worse.
The press doesn't cover it. I got a whole thing. It's a conspiracy. It was
January
a whole day.
9th. I got a whole thing on January 9th.
No, that was the normal tourist visit.
I was seeing January 6th, but
okay, all right, fine. No, because I'm like, did something happen on January? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah.
No, but I also think it's Vice President Harris, in her press statements, has continually slammed Trump for inciting a mob to attack the Capitol. So this fits perfectly in that. Biden was not talking about that. And she is shaming the corporate media to stop normalizing Trump and include in there, this guy's responsible for a terrorist attack on our Capitol. I think that's important. So I think she will. Tara, what about you? I mean, do you think this plays a role in it, or do you think the race thing is more important in terms of motivating our base to come out? Or is it both?
I think that January 6th isn't talked about nearly enough, and we don't hold him accountable, and not we, the mainstream media, because they don't know how to properly cover him, and they never have. They have, I like to say the MSM has PTSD from covering TFG. They have no idea. And it's really just tell the truth. We have all of it on video. We all witnessed it live. We all know what happened, and he will not ever hold any of his own people accountable, because to him, they were his army of good little soldiers. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. We have her on video bragging about plotting January 6th at the White House before she was even sworn into office, and she remains loyal, believing she'll get her pardon, which she's never going to get. So since I'm back writing for HillReporter.com, not The Hill is trash, HillReporter.com, this is something I can write about today, because the truth matters so very much. Just like the MSM isn't talking about the new Epstein files release. That is worse than what we knew before, but no one wants to talk about that. So maybe we can get the Harris campaign to shine a light on that. And also, how can you be the law and order candidate when you're a convicted felon who's going to be sentenced in 7 weeks?
And
everyone's
who's going
kind
to
of
pardon
forgotten
guys
about that, haven't they?
And who's going to pardon people who literally savagely beat police officers on his behalf? I mean, now we know he's saying that because just to remind people,
what he loves.
Right?
He loves that violence.
I wrote about it in my Substack and talked about it on the show yesterday. I played clips. Tom Cotton and JD Vance both said in the past months when they were asked about the pardons, he does not mean the people who beat up police officers. We're only talking about those who are peacefully walking through. That's changed now. That on Wednesday, that changed. This is a different policy he's proposing. That's why I think it deserves more coverage. And I know our corporate media, look, race stuff gets revenue, it gets ratings, it gets drama, it gets revenue. That's what happens. So race stuff, you can have panel all day on cable news. People will be like, all right. When you get to the policy stuff, they're like, I don't know. I want to talk about that. Wally, you want to say something, my friend?
Yeah, the thing that just trips me out about all of this man was shot in the ear. Remember that?
Yeah, that's a lifetime ago.
But that's the thing that amazes me is that, it was an assassination attempt, and most assassination attempts, are present to, debunks everything. It's kind of like, yo, this guy almost got shot, so that means something. Yo, we're not even mentioning the fact that this man almost got killed by a bullet. Because there's something to say about that. It's like, did it really happen? Is it really that important? Do we really want him to go away? So it's I think that's something that we have to address. That
it's interesting though how look, if he had gotten wounded seriously and he was in the hospital convalescing, it would continue as a story. And if he was killed, obviously it would have changed the whole dynamic of the election and where we're going as a nation. But thankfully, he wasn't wounded. I mean, I want the guy to be healthy, alive. I want him to lose his election. I want him to be convicted and spend his last days in a prison cell. That's where you belong if you incite a terrorist attack and attempt a coup, in prison, so no one else does the same thing. And they go, wow, that's my fate. And it's not to be mean. It's to be deterrence for other people, Democrat or Republican, going, look, Trump got away with it. Why don't I try it? Well, that's how this all ends. That's how the Republic ends. So he has to spend his last day in a prison cell. And that's a harder thing. So, all right, I want to touch on the last two things. One is Maya Rudolph is going to be back on SNL playing Kamala Harris through the end of the election. I'm really happy. When I worked at Saturday Night Live on the production staff, and I worked there when Maya was there, one of the nicest people in the world, so talented, really nice person. And I'm glad she's coming back doing this. I wonder if she'll mix it in with her Beyonce and other stuff. So, Scott, what do you think about Maya back as Kamala Harris?
Oh, I think that's great. She's so multi-talented in whatever she does, and it's great to have that, to have her there. And there's a very good impressionist, Matt Friend, also, who's I've been seeing a lot, who does incredible.
He does
Trump and so many other people. And
do you want him to play in blackface and a woman? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, no, I'm just saying, as a comedian, I'm happy for the people who, my old friend Jim Morris from years ago was, the great Reagan impersonator.
Reagan, right?
But I will say though that, they have painted Kamala as crazy because she has a nice laugh, great smile, in addition to being brilliant and smart and thoughtful. And I stay with these mean people on social media just to see what they're doing. And they have no talent, but it's just they do this cackle. And first of all, to me, someone with a good laugh, that's healthy. I want someone like that. Donald Trump does not laugh, which is scary and adds to the sociopath nature of who he is. So I hope she has plenty of reasons to just keep laughing and smiling, because I think that's very important. And she's able, to put across this attack on Donald Trump, but also in a smiling way that puts people at ease. And I think it's a very rare skill. And I'm so glad she's able to do that. I'm happy for Maya, and she'll be great.
She has a great laugh. I wish I could show you the picture. I wish I could insert it into this, because last summer she had an Eid event for the Muslim holiday day. Eid, Wally knows this. And then, so I was invited. I was happy to go. And I got to meet her and talk for like 15 seconds. That's it. And we just made a joke, and she laughed, and then she made a joke back. And it was a lot of fun. It was about, I'm like to her, because it was in her residence. And I said to her, we're taking the photo. I go, Dick Cheney lived here. And she started to laugh. And she goes, we burned incense. She goes, we had him take his sage and everything everywhere. And so there's a picture of us laughing that the photographer took. And I wrote an article for Salon about going there and about how impressed I was with her. That it wasn't just that in the piece, but that's the first time I'd seen her in person. I'm like, she's great. I came back a year ago, tell people on the show, I'm like, I don't know why she's so underestimated, but then again, maybe she just has really grown in the time as vice president. So she wasn't the candidate in 2020, which I did see her in person then, and she was good, but was not as impressive now. And she spoke to our group of like 80 people there and spent time with people. It was like this woman's amazing. All right. Last thing, the Olympics. We got like 4 or 5 minutes left. By the way, the ratings are off the chart. 34 million people averaging in the US watching it. That is up 79% from the pandemic delayed Tokyo games, which apparently nobody watched. Because to be up 79%, it was like friends and family watching it. Like that was it. So this is off the charts. And Simone Biles, she not only won more gold medals today, she threw some shade at Trump. She was holding up the gold medals in a photo, and she wrote above it, "I love my black job," and because Trump said the black job. So, have you guys watched it, Tara? Have you watched any Olympics?
I haven't watched it live, but I'm seeing a lot of it online. And anytime Americans are on the global stage, you're always kind of worried that something's going to happen. But this time, it just seems like everyone's super excited and everyone's really supportive. And it's beautiful to watch Simone Biles, who's one of the greatest athletes this planet has ever produced ever. And how much she triggers the right brings me joy. So anything that makes them mad makes me happy. And so watching her succeed, despite what anybody's going to say about her, similar to our presidential nominee, this is how they rise above. They're like, oh, you're going to try that? Then I'm going to dunk on you and I'm going to own it. So that she's got a gold medal in just life, as far as I'm concerned. She wins all the time.
I watched some of the floor exercise. I watched it. She gets elevated and does things in the air. You're like, what? I slowed down
the Taylor Swift witchy stuff.
Right. I slowed down the YouTube to watch what she's doing. Like, it's so fast and there's so much going on. And it's like almost a cartoon. It's that amazing. Like, I can't believe a human being can do this. It's like I'm like, it reminds me of something like the Fantastic Mr. Fox, where they were running around and, the little animated figures doing it. It was Wes Anderson's movie, which I love that movie, when they were playing sports scene. Like, it's real. She's a human being to do this. Wally, you watch anything? I found myself watching archery the other day. I'm like, what am I doing? I really was. I'm like, what am I doing?
I'm so arrogant when I watch the Olympics, especially gymnastics. I cannot do, like a percentage of what they can do, but I'm watching his elbow's off. You know what I
mean? Little slip there. His arm isn't as strong, long, straight as it should be.
Right. He's not completely vertical. Take some points up there.
That's so like when you watch the swimmers and they do an amazing thing and too much splash. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like a triple salt, whatever, in the air, but a teeny 3 drops. Someone get a towel. You're done.
That's it. Next.
Scotty, what about you? Have you watched?
Well, I mean, of course, it's inspiring stories. The gymnastics story, Katie Ledecky. I mean, not just being great in this Olympics, but for like 4 Olympics in a row. I mean, there's so many world-class athletes, and to continue to master, especially in the 1500 meters. If I had one, as a comedian, get up late, I look at my notes a little bit. I just admire, and I wish I could be inspired even more by their dedication. One other thing too, one part of the ratings increase, of course, it's an exciting story, and the 6 hours isn't so bad a difference. I just like me, I went to Paris for the first time last summer. I fell in love with it. I think people love Paris, and the Paris organizers are doing a great job. The Seine cleaned up in time. By the way, they'll probably break all swimming records because people just want to get out of the rivers.
Ew.
But and the mayor is a great mayor. She's very environmentally conscious, sustainability. They're doing it in a way that could be a model for future Olympics. And it's Paris. So I think people like to see that. And I'm inspired by all the athletes, and not just the American athletes. Some of the American coverage is always, here in this story, incredibly, an American finishes 29th. What a story. Let's go in depth and personal. 29 out of 30. So I try to watch other coverage too, because there's great stories. I'm glad South Sudan won their first basketball game, not against the U.S., but against Puerto Rico. So, well, it is.
You're right, though. The Seine River thing, the idea, we're going to give you a minute, then we release the E. coli and go. They broke another record. They're unbelievable. So, all right.
By the way, breakdancing is an Olympic event now.
Breaking. It's good. I haven't seen it yet. All right. So, the last minute, I just want everyone all together collectively, 1 minute to plug your stuff. Tara, where can people find your work? I know you're writing for HillReporter.com, but where can they see you and find your work?
Sign up for my Substack, taradublin.substack.com. And you can also buy my book. It's a rock and roll love story inspired by my Meet Cool with Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters. We're coming up on the 23rd anniversary of that happening. So this rock and roll love story inspired that. There's a whole bunch of Foo Fighters Easter eggs in this book, and you can get it right now at taradublinrocks.com.
And I signed up for your Substack, and I get your newsletters. Very
Yay,
good.
thank you. And I get yours too.
Scotty, where can people follow your work?
You can find me on scottblakeman.com with my schedule. Hopefully I'll be out there trying to talk about the news without depressing people. I think that's what is the goal for comedian. That's what you do beautifully, Dean, and all of you, Tara and Wali. And also I do a podcast twice a week called Getting Through This with Tom and Scott, with Tom Saunders, that you can, and it's not about politics or the news at all. It's more absurd. So it's that part of me that gets a chance to express itself. And we need that too.
And Wali?
I'll be doing my laundry in about an hour.
Excellent.
Cancel your plans for the weekend.
Yeah, right. I'll be at the comic strip tonight, actually. It's August 2nd. But also, I have a show called Jokes and Jazz that we launched at Lincoln Center, New York City. It's taken on the road. It'll be at the new Rodney's Comedy Club, September 14th. Jokes and Jazz, I'll be hosting it. It's music and laughs. It's a lot of fun. And I'll be taking my clothes out of the dryer probably like another 3 hours.
That's excellent. All right. Well, Tara, Wali, and Scott, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.